What up, Nurse Gang? What up, TikTok? So, sad case today on Nurses in the News. How two nurses, one primary home care RN, and a nursing supervisor of a home care agency went from not actually doing their visits to sitting in jail in Florida on first-degree and third-degree murder charges with no bond because they outsourced the care of a 7-year-old baby with a G-tube to his family, and his family let him starve to death over a year. The nurses never did the visits, never checked up, just sent the supplies. If you are overworked, overwhelmed, or burnt out, just remember, if you cannot do your duties as a nurse, that's a job you need to leave because you might end up in prison. Today on Nurses in the News, headline reads, how did two Florida health agency nurses let a 7-year-old starve? Let's take a deeper look into it. As a patient of Florida's once admired healthcare program for the state's sickest and most disabled children, Deontay Elijah Atwell was entitled to monthly visits from coordinators overseeing his care, sessions with physical therapists, specialists for his feeding tube, and respiratory therapists to maintain his ventilator. Instead, the state farmed Deontay's care out to a private home health care company. The company, in turn, was supposed to provide 24-hour nursing care and to ensure the boy's medical needs were all met. That didn't happen either. The agency took the state's money, and it reported visits that never took place. Home health nurses had outsourced their responsibilities to Deontay's family. Unable to speak, Deontay could not seek help when his mother and two other relatives simply stopped feeding him. No help arrived until too late. It was Christmas Day 2023 when paramedics encountered the boy, weighing 1 pound for each of his 7 years. His shrunken body was marked by gaping wounds and a broken rib. Barely alive, Deontay was already in rigor mortis. His skeleton was visible through his skin. He didn't live throughout the night. The investigation into Deontay's December 25th death focused on the boy's mother and other relatives. Detectives soon began asking questions about two registered nurses who were being paid by the state to provide home care to Deontay. He was born with spina bifida, a birth defect that occurs when a child's spine doesn't fully form during pregnancy, and encephalitis, an inflammation of the brain. How could a medically complex 7-year-old boy starve to death, authorities wondered, while under the care of a licensed home health agency and state medical administrators? Last week, police and prosecutors began assessing the blame. They charged Deontay's mother, Michelle Doe, and two other family members with homicide. They also charged the two registered nurses who worked for a Miramar-based provider called Samaritan Home Health Agency with a string of charges, including a first-degree murder for one of them. The nurses, Merlande Maldemar and Cassandra Lasigue, remain at the Broward County Jail, where they both are being detained without bond on charges of aggravated manslaughter, third-degree murder, child neglect with great bodily harm, and Medicaid fraud. Lasigue also faces first-degree murder charges. She was the primary RN. Doe and Lasigue have pleaded not guilty. Maldemar's plea is unclear. A Fort Lauderdale police incident report suggests family members simply neglected to feed the boy, who was fed through a tube connected to his stomach. A search of the family's modest home revealed a kitchen stocked with food, including 9 unopened cases of the nutritional supplement that was to be poured into the boy's gastrostomy tube. The nurses, court filings show, are accused of billing the state for healthcare services they didn't render. On Monday, Broward prosecutors asked that Maldemar be held in jail until trial in a motion that detailed state's case against her. The pleading said Deontay was subject to prolonged food deprivation that was carried out systemically, resulting in his death by starvation. The pleading said, had Deontay been receiving in-home skilled nursing in the days, weeks, and months leading up to his death, he would not have starved to death or have been subjected to severe medical neglect. This is why the supervisor is charged. Records and call logs show that Maldemar expressly denied any issues in providing 24/7 nursing care. She stated that there were no gaps in any of the shifts and that there were no issues or concerns with the victim. Baltimore also wrote reports to Deontay's primary care pediatrician every 60 days, detailing all of the nursing services delivered to the family, despite having actual or constructive knowledge that services were not being provided. Now, I don't know. It seems like maybe the supervisor owned this agency or was part owner, because they were not doing the visits, but she also was trying to validate to the state that they didn't have any issues with, providing care for the patients. And they were not doing the visits. A patient starved to death. But my thing is, you didn't do the visits for almost a year. It's not like you just skipped a couple. You just weren't going at all. Sending supplies, hoping the family fed the boy. What are your thoughts, Nurse Gang? Let's talk about it.